Stroking your national ego is fun. So I made a video praising Dutch cycling. If you go to my hometown on Google Maps and select Street View to kind of get an idea of what it's like to be there, then you might well notice a lot of this. And this. And this, and this, and this. Cycleways and cyclists, everywhere. This isn't unique to the town of Veenendaal alone, but exists throughout the whole country, rivaling the extensiveness of car roads. People cycle a lot, and it's incredibly safe to do so wherever you go. And this map doesn't even show the quality or all types of bike infrastructure. Now, as a kid, I thought this was perfectly normal in any country. But it actually appears that bicycle culture being this intricate and interwoven into society is the exception. I think. Don't know exactly, but either way, it's at least uncommon enough to share my experiences about in a homeroom video. Now, there were a bunch of COVID rules back when I filmed, okay, so places might seem a bit empty here and there. Anyways, let's quickly look at some examples of what it all looks like first. Here's a two-way lane. Here's a one-way lane. Here's a roundabout. Here's a crossing. Here and there, the bicycle gutter still remains. Oh, and these, bicycle paths providing extra routes that you can't reach by car. I know, it's not like this is only in the Netherlands, but I'm trying to give you a fundamental idea of what it all looks like there, okay? Just realize that this stuff is everywhere. The fact that it's consistently everywhere is something important to realize, because it's proved to be the key to now having most demographics in the Netherlands be able to safely take the bicycle without any fears. Hence why people bike so much in the first place. Here are students, our age. Here's the buckfeets, handy for moving many children. Here are mountain bikers. Their overly expensive equipment almost compensates for the lack of actual mountains. And here's shoppers, as well as kids, adults, and the elderly. This all highlights a key notion to keep in mind. People don't view cycling as a sport or a hobby, but rather as just another perfectly normal option available for getting around, like driving, walking, or taking public transit. Few Dutchies are bike obsessives who keep up with all the new bike-related tech. We just find our good old sturdy bikes useful for getting from point A to point B as efficiently as possible, as is often the case. I find this notion to be reflected best by the fact that people cycling never dress for the journey on the bike, but rather always for the destination. Show up with so much as a helmet, and Dutchies are gonna think you a tourist. You don't wear any special clothes for walking or driving to your destination. Why do so for a perfectly safe and comfortable cycle ride? I mean, have you seen anyone at this crossing at any point wear lycra or a helmet or anything else like that? And true to the Dutch culture of despising any form of hierarchy whatsoever, people on bicycles are never treated as any less by people in the car. Everyone bikes, so those who happen to be in the car are sympathetic and respectful to those cycling, and vice versa. And often enough, road rules and a whole bunch of other laws give bicycles priority, so it's not like bikes are treated as inferior legally either. So now, let's look at some benefits of all this that are not just about clean, green, and healthy. Woohoo! Why did I think that voice was a good idea? Making cycling so easy allows for greater autonomy and freedom. This makes it an extremely convenient mode of transport for a whole lot of people. You can move around anywhere at any time without relying on anything or anyone. It's a simple benefit, but I cannot really emphasize just how liberating the ability to use bikes so easily to get to places was for me. Well, any time I remember being in the Netherlands. And the best part is that this applies to everyone who can ride a bike even less than half decently well, which is almost all people. To demonstrate, let's look at one of the reasons why UNICEF rated Dutch children the happiest in the world. They have lots of autonomy. A considerable part of this is their ability to just, wow, English. A considerable part of this is their ability to just grab their bikes whenever and ride anywhere independently without being trapped by a reliance on parents, buses or trams to drive them, because the safe and reliable road design just allows them to do so. Places without extensive bike infrastructure can easily offer plenty of independence to people without a car, considering walkability and numerous forms of public transit exist. But what I'm saying is that extensive bicycle infrastructure adds an even higher level of independence on top of this, no matter people's age, social or financial backgrounds, or despite even the weather. It gives people yet another perfectly viable option as to how they get around, and naturally, the more distinct options there are, the more freedom city design gives you. My hometown does not have a lot going for it when it comes to being exciting. Some would call it calm, but others would opt to call it boring. There's one major lively shopping street and like what, 2 decently sized parks to make things interesting? Not much going on. But despite that, I wouldn't call it necessarily completely boring to move around it. You see, I personally feel like having plenty of people biking around just makes a city much more of a place, for people. It's just a much more relaxed, social and interactive way of traveling than cars are, and on a much more human scale too. For me, just seeing people around you hustle and bustle about the place without being alienated from each other by large tin cans and wide asphalt strips just makes such a huge difference subconsciously in terms of how lively and vibrant it is to just move around. Combined with being able to stretch my legs and getting some fresh air, I mind moving through my town's boring environment a bit less now. Overall, the Dutch approach to cycling is just one of the ways to make urban environments feel somewhat more human. Which is of course great, because it actually turns out the cities are places with lots of humans in them. Bikes are relatively simple and cheap. There's few regulations and no traffic to worry about. You can park them anywhere, and their profiles are extremely flexible and much better capable of reaching a destination as directly as possible than motor vehicles. Particularly for shorter trips, cycling can just be easier than driving. But what's more, if many people cycle regularly instead of driving, overall traffic can just flow more smoothly. Take these 2 primary schools, right beside each other and pretty sizable. If a large number of parents drop off and pick up kids with cars, traffic would probably be jammed on these roads here. However, almost everyone cycles to them, so the roads don't jam up. I like to think that in this case I'm a pretty trustworthy source, because this one here is my old primary school that I went to for 7 years. As a side note, to give you a bit of a visualization of what schools are like outside of lockdown, here's a time lapse of high schoolers arriving at a completely ordinary school somewhere over in the south of the country or something. And you're not telling me that having all these people here cycle instead of each taking the car is insignificant to reducing traffic congestion. That's it. The end! I hope this gave you an idea of what Dutch cycling is like. To be honest, I hope it even somewhat interested you at all. Road design is not a very engaging topic, even if it's me presenting it. It might well not even be new to you, considering what I just talked about is there in most other places in the world too. To at least some extent. Then the microphone changing up my voice likely didn't help either. I must have gone through at least 5 transitions into puberty and back. But I guess I talked about what I talked about anyways, because the Dutch are best known for it. And it can be fascinating to learn about other cultures. And in the end, I just really wanted to learn making videos, so explaining a staple of Dutch culture in homeroom just seemed like the perfect excuse to. So yeah, I'll end it with a relevant fact. In 2020, Amsterdam was rated as one of the country's worst cities for cycling by the Dutch Cyclists Union. Was that a good ending? I don't I don't even know anymore.